Hello friends, welcome to Squaird Plans, where creative planning and organization comes to life. I'm Stephanie and today we're going to be creating a winter-themed DIY cover using cardstock, vellum, and acetate. I'll be trying some new techniques, so let's get to it. And I've got a couple of punches here ready to go, a disc punch and a corner rounder. Also have a ruler, this acrylic marker, which will be very important. I also have some white cardstock, which I use to print out the cover designs, some acetate sheets that I got from Amazon, this set of Scotch thermal laminating pouches in 5mm size, as well as a laminator, and a large guillotine cutter, which I'll be using throughout the video. So I have the image that I'll be using for my cover and inside cover here printed out on cardstock. These are just free images that I got off of Unsplash and laid them out back to back for an outside and inside cover for my planner. I will go ahead and cut them down to size now so you guys can get an idea of how I did that. Basically, I added in some crop marks to cut it down to classic Happy Planner page size. Most of the time my covers I extend about a ½ inch on the width and the height to cover things like tabs. But for this cover, I'm going to be using the dashboards as is without lamination. So I'm just going to cut them down to a standard classic Happy Planner size to make sure that they don't interfere with the edges of my tabs and things like that. And I was going to cut down the vellum to the same classic Happy Planner page size. I do find that cutting a vellum on my cutter without any backer is very difficult because it's so thin. So I just grabbed a sheet of a misprinted cover and I'm using that to help stabilize the vellum so I could cut it down to size. So I've got those both cut down to size and you can see how they will layer. The image that I'm using on the vellum is also a free stock photo that I ended up printing in black and white only to kind of eliminate any color so it looked nice and silhouetted there on the vellum. And added the words "Get Cozy" on my computer before I printed. You could do that in Canva or Word or whatever program you have if you wanted to recreate that. I've also used my Happy Planner punch to go ahead and punch those pages since I am not going to laminate them. They were thin enough for me to be able to punch them with just that Happy Planner punch. Okay, so now the fun part. I've pulled out a sheet of acetate paper. It is a sheet that I got off of Amazon. I will have the link below in case you want to test out your skills in acetate and if it's new for you. And then I really wanted to try a white ink dashboard, but I wasn't sure how I might be able to DIY this. So what I decided to try is grabbing a couple of different white pens in my stash and seeing which ones would actually dry and stabilize on the acetate. And a couple of them worked that I had. I have a paint marker that is very porous on regular paper that worked beautifully on this. But I also have these acrylic markers, which are some of my favorites for working both on paper and on other materials, and decided to try this marker and it worked great. I did try gel pens. Those did not work very well. I also tried chalk markers. Those didn't work very well at all. So you really need a paint pen of sorts in order to make this happen. And as you can see, I'm just adding in some fine dots to recreate a snowy scene on the acetate. I went ahead and kind of had the backer there so I could get an idea of where to place the snowflakes. I'm going to let that one that I just did dry. I have another version that I made for the back ready to go and it's all dry. So I'm going to put that into a 5mm laminating sheet and then laminate it for the first run. I haven't cut it down yet, so currently the page size is 8.5 by 11. I am going to take that and then cut it down to the size I'm going to be using for my covers. I will be double laminating these sheets, so I'm going to cut right up to the edge. I'm not going to worry about maintaining the laminated edge at this point because I'm really just adding that extra layer of lamination to get a final thickness of about 10 mil when we're done. So the size that I cut this down to is actually 7.5 by 9.5. Normally I would do 9 3/4, adding that 1/2 inch on all sides. But I have a couple of covers that I want to use perhaps with this cover, and I don't want it to stick out. We'll see if cutting down the size a little bit top and bottom will help with that, since most of the pre-made covers that you get from other vendors are that extra 1/2 inch on all sides. They're only a little bit wider or a little bit taller than your page size. So like I said, I went to 7.5 and 9.5 on the width and the height. And now I'm going to relaminate and cut it down once again, this time maintaining those laminated edges so that I can use it as is. So in case you missed it the first time, I'm going to go ahead and do the one I just did and repeat that entire process, laminating it twice. I am doing a 5 mil heat setting on my laminator, and with thinner materials you got to be careful because sometimes it does leave some artifacts, I guess would be a good way to say it, through the paper. So you got to be careful with the heat setting on the thinner papers because they can get damaged with too high of heat. I think this one turned out pretty good. You can see a little bit of like, I don't know, kind of like a foggy look in the middle. There's a little bit of that in the center on the top, but overall I got a pretty clean lamination. And these are actually my last 4 laminating sheets in the 5 mil size, so if there was mistakes, I could not really recreate or relaminate unless I went out and got new ones. But thankfully they came out pretty great, and so I am happy with the result. Same thing here on the back. I've cut it down, maintaining that laminated edge on this second pass. And now I'm going to try to find the halfway point. I did mess up on the first one and I marked it a little bit off from where it should have been, but I got it right on the second one. But when I put them together, I realized that one of them was off. So I went back and measure twice, cut once. Isn't that the rule? So I did that, and thankfully I did so that there wasn't any kind of shifting of the covers front to back. I have my ruler already preset with that extra 1/2 inch. So for 9 3/4 inch, where that halfway point is, but not for 9.5. So I had to do the math in my head and make sure I was doing it in the right spot. And yeah, I realized I had punched it wrong, or I had marked it wrong the first time. So for something like this, for this heavier weight DIY laminated page, the Happy Planner punch, or I mean, maybe an art disc punch would be able to handle it, but I know a Happy Planner punch will not handle it. So I have a power disc punch here that I use for all of my DIY style projects like this, and it works out perfectly. The best thing though is to mark the first hole in the very center of your project when you have an odd numbered disc count on your planner, and then punch from there. That way you will make sure that it is set up evenly. If you have an even numbered, like for a half letter planner, for example, where there's only 8 discs, then you will need to mark the center and then evenly space out the 2 holes surrounding the center mark before punching. A little more convoluted, but just thought I'd bring that up for anybody who's trying to do this on a half letter or another even numbered disc planner. So I went ahead and cleaned out the holes too using my scissors, mainly because my punch is a little old and usually leaves a little extra hanger on on each punch. It's not as sharp as it used to be. So I go back through and clean those up with my scissors, as well as usually open up the hole of the stem a little bit just to make it slide easier on my discs. Same with my corner rounder here. It's also been used quite a bit and is not very sharp anymore, so I usually have to clean up the edges as well. I will show you guys on my current planner how this will layer up, just so you guys can get an idea of the final result. But I will be using this in my 2025 planner setup. Stay tuned for that. That video is coming very soon. I really love how it came out. And again, that kind of show you how it looks. I had a extra large dashboard back there, so I moved that so you would get a better idea of how it would look together. But that's the final result. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up down below. Also, too, go ahead and leave me a comment if you'd like to get in touch or have any questions. And think about subscribing to my channel if you haven't already, if you'd like to see more of my videos. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And we will see you next time. Bye.